In this video, I'm going to talk to you about what all of the numbers mean when currency pairs are traded together. The first currency mentioned is always what we call the base currency, and is always being compared to the second currency, which is either called the quote or the counter currency. So if you're watching the news and near the end, they have a very brief news report, and the newsreader may say something like, "The Great British Pound was down against the US dollar today, reaching a new low of $1.23. Basically, what they are saying is the Great British Pound has dropped in value compared to the US dollar, and the Great British Pound is equivalent to $1.23. As the US dollar is the major currency of the world, you will find that most local news reports will compare your local currency to it, and even some of the other majors such as the Euro or the Great British Pound. Using the same example of the Great British Pound at $1.23, if I was to travel overseas, say to the US, I would need US dollars, so I'd be hoping for a high exchange rate as possible so I can get more for my Great British Pound. So if the exchange rate moved up to $1.25, then one Great British Pound would be the equivalent to $1.25. You may see the quote for the Great British Pound and the US dollar similar to this, 1.2365 against 1.2367. I'll explain later why there are two sets of numbers, but just looking at the 1.2345, this shows how many units of the quote currency are needed to buy $1 of the base currency. In this case, the US dollar would be the quote currency and the Great British Pound would be the base currency. So 1.235 US dollars is equivalent to one Great British Pound. So let's consider a pair example. If the Great British Pound against the US dollar was quoted at 1.2365 against 1.2367, what exactly does this mean? The first figure of 1.2365 is called the bid price. The second figure of 1.2367 is the ask price. The difference between the two is called the spread. At this time, if I was to buy the Great British Pound thinking it was going to go up in value against the US dollar, I would be required to pay the ask price, which in this case was 1.2367. Now, if I was to buy the Great British Pound at 1.2367 and then immediately close my position before the price had a chance to move, I would have closed my position by selling the Great British Pound at 1.2365. Now the difference is equal to 0.0002, which is called the spread, and this would be the amount that I lost on this trade. Now 0.001 is called a pip, which is sometimes referred to as a point. So on this trade, I would have lost 2 pips, or 2 points. All of the pairs I mentioned earlier in this course, except the Japanese yen pairs, normally have 4 decimal places, and their pip value is calculated like this. The Japanese yen pairs usually only have 2 decimal places, and an example of the US dollar against the Japanese yen could be quoted as followed: 97.81 against 97.83. This tells me that 1 US dollar is equal to 97.8 Japanese yen. The bid price is 97.81 and the ask price is 97.83, resulting in a 2 pip spread. Now this is important. Most brokers these days have an additional decimal place on their quoted prices. Now this has come about as a result of spreads getting tighter over the years. Some traders also believe that this was introduced to help with the broker's bottom line, as they can further manipulate spreads in their favour and confuse the unsuspecting trader at times. Now not everyone was happy with this introduction, however I've never known the difference, so it doesn't affect me and it certainly won't affect you. If you're an aspiring trader looking for more great content like this, then head over to the Tips to Pips website and join our community of 1,200 traders. I'll see you there.